Being no expert on classic anime styles, nor following any trends, I like thinking about chibi characters in a more free way than just a super cute two-heads figure with big, dreamy eyes. Ever since I began drawing comics, I found it really fun to chibify characters to various degrees to fit comedic scenes. Because in comics you have the freedom to change the degree of deformation in each panel as you need for the action and emotion of the scene. Tips on chibi deformation. I believe there aren't really any rules to drawing chibis as everybody has a different style and preferences. This tutorial's goal is to share several tips that can help you when drawing your chibi characters. Cute and funny. The main point of chibis is that the characters turn more childlike to look cute and funny by exaggerating their characteristic traits and features while simplifying or even leaving out unimportant parts. Here are some tips on what to focus on when deforming your character. You can deform them to any degree you want. Just follow your gut feeling and what you like. Head. The rounder the head becomes, the more childlike the character appears. You can even make the face wider than its height. If you want to make a distinction between the child and adult characters, the trick is to draw eyes lower for children while leaving more space between the eyes and the mouth for adults. Cheeks tend to be rounder and more prominent. Facial features like chin, nose, lips, wrinkles, etc. are often omitted. Unless it's an important characteristic, of course. Similarly, ears tend to be small and simplified. Hairstyle. The hairstyle is often the most distinguishing feature of a character. Try simplifying the hair strands into simpler, rounder and more puffed up shapes while maintaining the character's typical silhouette. A hat-like guide around the head itself can help you with simplifying the hairstyle. Eyes and mouth. The eyes and mouth are the most important features. That's why their level of deformation and simplification depends heavily on the character design and their personality. If a character is cheerful and loud, exaggerate their mouth. If they're quiet, draw their mouth small. If they're mischievous, use a cat-like mouth. Cute doesn't always mean big eyes. If small eyes are typical for your character, you can keep them small. A common trick for cuteness is to make the eyes converging and to draw the irises taller. The amount of highlights is proportional to the explicitly cute look of the character. In a comedic scene where a character is childishly excited, you can go overboard with the highlights and even add sparkles into the irises. Eyebrows are essential to expressing emotions. You don't have to emphasize them, just make sure they're clearly readable. If they're hidden under bangs, you can draw them over the hair. Body. Unless you want to strictly follow a certain style, the degree of deformation of the body is completely up to you and the needs of the scene you're drawing. If the focus is on a character's emotion, you can draw the body very small and hands and feet very simplified. I like using these mitten-like shapes for hands and clam-like shapes for feet. If the character is doing some action, adjust the size of the body and the level of detail on hands according to the situation. In my comics I use the whole spectrum of the degree of deformation, from a chibified face with simplified shoulders to a simplified body with childlike proportions to a classic two-heads chibi. Drawing chibi characters. The simplest and most common way is to draw the head rounder, then scale down the character's body. But think of the poor chibis having to carry such a boulder of a head on such a stick of a body. Don't be afraid to stylize the chibi's body further to give them more balance and make them look real and alive. Start with simple shapes. Try to break the figure into simple shapes. The shapes depend on your preferences. Some artists make the waist wider with arms and legs tapering towards tiny hands and feet, while others prefer the opposite with a small torso and thin limbs getting thicker towards big hands and feet, or anything in between. I combine these approaches depending on the situation and the character's design and personality. I like using a cone shape for the torso and legs because it adds stability to the character no matter the head size. The bending of the cone makes it easy to draw dynamic poses as well. As for arms, add guiding curves that support the flow of the pose and draw the arms along them. I tend to draw shoulders very narrow because it makes the character look younger and the pose more dynamic. For comedic scenes, don't be afraid to exaggerate. If your character is showing off his shoe tying skills, You can make the feet bigger. Tips for techniques. Line art. Drawing on vector layers allows you to tweak the lines and change the brush tip and thickness later. You can use the correct line tools to make the lines thicker in shaded areas and along the outside of the character's silhouette while thinning the details inside for a sticker-like look. Adjust the brush stabilization for smoother lines. For super cute chibis, you may want to try thick lines of constant width while rounding all sharp points. I prefer keeping the lines more dynamic in accordance with the liveliness and personalities of the characters. For illustrations, I like using a textured brush as a hint on traditional media gives off a friendly feeling that adds to the cuteness. Colors. Soft pastel colors in the warmer spectrum go well with chibis as they add a friendly and comfortable feeling to the picture. Try coloring the line art by clipping a new layer with reduced opacity on the line art folder and drawing on it with the same colors as your base. Adding saturated orange, red and purple here and there boosts the cuteness too. Since the charm of chibis lies in their simplicity, it is sometimes better to leave them without shading, as it adds extra information which can make the drawing actually harder to read. You can try the simple backlight and colored edges of shadows tricks I presented in my webtoon coloring and shading tutorial, where you can also find many tricks to easily adjust colors if you feel yours turned out too dark or cold. Post-processing tricks. Select the folder containing both the line art and colors and open the layer property palette. For a sticker-like border, add a white border effect. For a soft, dreamy finish, try the watercolor edge with darkness set to 0. This effect also makes the outer line art appear thicker. You can stack both effects by applying the watercolor edge on the folder, putting it inside another folder to which you apply the border effect. Tips for beginners. Smaller body. Generally speaking, the smaller and simpler the body, the easier it is to draw, so you may want to start with those. Symmetrical ruler. For deciding the chibi proportions, you can use the symmetrical ruler to help you draw quicker. 3D models. If you get stuck with drawing your chibis from scratch but enjoy using 3D figures, just like with normal characters, you can use the Clip Studio Paint's posable 3D figures with adjusted proportions. The head model, which you can attach to the figure, allows you to play with the facial features and their proportions in the face mixer and even has a chibi preset. Additionally, in the assets you can find many posable 3D figures with various chibi proportions that you can use as a base for your drawings. Chibify anything. The principles and uses of chibis aren't limited to human or anthropomorphic characters only. Feel free to apply them to any character, be it an animal or an object. For example, the car in my webtoon is a normal car, but in comedic scenes I often add eyes and deform and simplify its features to make it look cute and funny. This allows the car to comment on the scenes with its expressions and body language. I hope this tutorial inspires you and helps you have fun with drawing your chibi characters. Because fun and cuteness are what chibis are about.